Still looks like some good deals inbound for Warhammer 40k. The exact contents of the first 20 issues of the Combat Patrol magazine have been shared, so let's take a look at which ones might offer the best savings on expensive Games Workshop models. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're taking another look at the Combat Patrol magazine, where on the channel I've just been keeping an eye on the magazines that have been coming out and having their contents revealed, as every so often they have some issues of the magazine selling models for far cheaper than Games Workshop normally would. I'm sure quite a lot of you are familiar with what the Combat Patrol magazine is at this point. It's the 10th edition Hachette Partworks magazine, similar to Imperium and Conquest before it. They sell magazines at around about the £10, so likely in the sort of $12 to $13 sort of mark when it hits the USA. And in that magazine issue you might get some paints, a model kit, or part of a model kit if it's split over 2 issues. They don't like to officially confirm releases in other locations too far ahead of time, but going by the last 2 magazines it should be sometime spring 2025, and then hopefully many other places around the world later the same year. And it is kind of useful for people in other locations to get the heads up as to what's coming out in it, maybe just to showcase what the offer is and any particular magazine sets that could be in high demand. So far we already knew the contents of the first 6 to 8ish given some leaks. It seems that the Warhammer website that the Hachette people like to share the contents with has just released the first 20 or so issues contents, and I'll leave a link to their site in the video description. For this one though, I thought it was worth taking a look at the new information, which magazines offer the biggest savings and might be highest in demand and why. Quickly whizzing through the ones that we know, the first one was the Terminator Captain versus the Winged Prime for £3. One of the best on-paper deals that you're ever likely to get in Warhammer, particularly given that Games Workshop would sell these two individually for like £50 or so. And then after that we had 3 Von Ryan's Leapers for £7, which again was a pretty good one for any Tyranids players wanting them. Then a set of 5 Infernus Marines, a set of paints with a brush, and then the unique Infernus Marine sculpt for the magazine run. Not a unique playable character like some of the lieutenants that they did in the past, but could be fun as a little painting project I guess. The 6th issue was then a particularly good one for any Tyranids players that want a few more spine-launching barb gaunts. I'm sure plenty will already have them from Leviathan, but these guys usually sell for £28 direct or £24 from discount retailers, so getting it for £10 if you buy through a news agent or a subscription is pretty good. And it still looks like these guys are available to pre-order for £13.50 including delivery from Forbidden Planet, the scheduled release dates being the 9th of October. Then after that, issues 7 and 8 are worse than I previously thought. The pictures on the front of them showed 10 termagants with flesh borers and 1 Ripper Swarm, with the caption underneath it saying part 1 of 2 and then part 2 of 2. I initially misinterpreted that as meaning that we'd get the full 20 termagants in those 2 issues, but it seems that those 2 ones just build 10 of them total, with sprues in each one. It essentially means that it's 10 monopose flesh borer gaunts for £20, which is just an absolutely terrible deal in the UK at the moment. When I last checked, I think you could buy them for around about £12 or so, including delivery off eBay, so getting them for £20 is flat worse than that. Never mind the fact that the multi-part termagant kit is £24 via discount retailers, and I feel for the extra £4 or so that might well be worth it if you wanted to have the different guns and war gear options. Kind of a shame that one, but at the moment, at least in the UK, this one's not really helpful at all for getting these cheaper. For the next one, it's another paint one with Abaddon Black and Retributor armor. Again, not worth seeking out if you're not getting it automatically included in the subscription as mandatory. You can buy those paints for cheaper if you seek them out from Games Workshop. But then issue 10 looks like the next potentially useful one if you're trying to find deals. This one has the Space Marine Terminator Librarian with a cool runic armor from the Ultimate Starter set or the Leviathan box set, plus a medium base brush as well, which some people might have use for depending on where you get your brushes. I think the Terminator Librarian's quite a nice model. I quite enjoyed painting mine up from the Leviathan box set. For standard Space Marines he's not unusable, but not really super strong in game in my opinion. He gives you sustained hits and a bit of psychic damage. Potentially he could be more useful for Grey Knights in particular, given how much damage they do. And you certainly could think about using him as a base to convert into other characters, maybe chaos him up and make a Chaos Sorcerer or Chaos Lord perhaps. If you're looking at just for the model, to buy him directly from Games Workshop is £25 or around £21 from discount retailers, though due to his presence in the starter sets looks like he's selling for around about £16 on eBay in the UK right now. Still looks like this will be a way to get him cheaper than basically any other way though currently. Around about 53% savings if you can get him for £10 versus the discount retailer, or around about 37% if you ordered him from Forbidden Planet. Again, it looks like that issue of the magazine it has already gone live for pre-order, and I'll leave a link to that one down in the video description. I feel like that could be a useful one if you wanted him to paint up. A fair few people playing Space Marines might already have one if they got the Leviathan box or the Ultimate set earlier in the edition though. I didn't include the paintbrush in the value calculation. If you value that at all, then the deal gets better, I suppose. Otherwise, for number 11, it's paints again, Corax White and Lead Belcher. Again, no sort of saving to be had there. For issues 12 and 13, we've got Terminators, and this one's the Monopose Terminator squad from the starter sets or the Leviathan box set, split over 2 issues again in the same sort of way as the Termagants were. Compared with them though, I feel like that's a lot more of an impressive offering for £20. For the big multi-part kits, they're usually £40 in the UK or £34 from discounters, and even for this Monopose set on eBay, they're still currently going for around about £28–29 or so. It seems that out of any of the starter sets and things, the Terminator models are by far the ones in the most demand from there. If you could guarantee that you could get both of them at £10, it looks like it's around about a 33% saving versus eBay if you wanted the Monopose ones. On paper, it doesn't really look like it'd be worth ordering them from Forbidden Planet at all, as I believe that you pay the £3.50 per issue, so this would be a big £7 postage, and a £2 discount just doesn't really seem entirely worth bothering with. You'd certainly want to make sure that you can definitely get both copies of it though, as I don't think you'd really want to be just left with one out of the 2 of these and then not able to complete the squad because you couldn't find number 13. Then for the 14th one, we've got another paint issue. This one's Screamer Pink and Rakarth Flesh, so once again no savings to be had. Issue 15 gets us the biggest model so far though, the Psychophage, the big psycho-devouring Tyranid tick bug type thing. This one was quite well received in terms of being a cool model in the Leviathan box set. In game it's not really a whole load of threat, it mainly just wanders around being quite a tough beastie and giving other Tyranid monsters feel no pain. Feels like the sort of unit you might want one of to protect the core of your army if you wanted, and then it'll just be a cheap nuisance unit after it's done its defensive buffs for a few turns. The value saving for him is kind of interesting. In theory land it's £37 buying directly from Games Workshop, so £31.50 from discount retailers. That would put it at the biggest theoretical discount, but in reality, given that he's available in the 40k starter set and the ultimate set and Leviathan, it means his price new on eBay including posting is around about £11 or £12, which means that if you did want one in the UK at least right now, you could pick one up basically dirt cheap anyway. He's definitely a miniature that kind of shows how arbitrary Games Workshop's pricing is. The official top line price of the model is £37, but the free market values it at less than £12 including postage, just because he's been discounted elsewhere so much. In general, it still doesn't really seem any worse to pick him up this way though. £10 for a Tyranid monster really isn't too bad, whichever way you slice it. And just bear in mind that you can already buy one for around that same sort of price, so if you're a Tyranid collector and you did want these, and for some reason you don't have more than you want already, having a nose at eBay or the starter sets wouldn't be the worst idea. I feel like this is one of the discounts that'll look great in hindsight, maybe in a future edition of the game when the only way to get Psychophages is £37. That seems likely to be the case once they update the starter sets for a new edition and the discount Tyranid ones go away. Then we've got another paint issue, so number 16 is Squig Orange and Mephiston Red. Again, nothing exciting on the discount front. Following that, apparently we've got a repeat of the Termagants, issues 17 and 18. Again, each basically have half a squad worth of Termagants in terms of sprues. £20 for 10 plus a Ripper, so again really not worth looking for. If you want the Monopose ones, eBay or the starter sets will do you far better. And if you want the multi-build ones, then that's only an extra £4 if you buy through a discount retailer. The Tyranids get a bit more luck with number 19 though, which I guess will be the last entry in terms of the models that come with the mainline magazine, aside from things like the premium sub or anything I guess. He's the Tyranid miniature that came out alongside their codex in 9th edition, so a relatively recent sculpt there. In 10th edition he's found a role as a fast moving and ripper spawning lone operative if he can get into some infantry. Unfortunately within the Tyranid codex he's just a bit overshadowed right now, certainly not unusable, but I feel like with 3 flavours of really quite strong lictor to compete with at the moment, one of those is likely to do better in more optimised lists. I think it's quite a fun model though, with some cool lore. I'm sure there's plenty of Tyranid players out there who'd happily paint one up. Again, this one looks like one of the better deals. Buying direct from Games Workshop is their sort of standard character price at £26, so £22 from a discount retailer. And unlike most of the rest here, he wasn't present in the starter sets or the Leviathan box, so won't be found cheaper on eBay normally. That means that with theoretical savings, he's around about 55% cheaper than even the discount retailer if you can find the issue on the shelves for £10, or around about 40% off versus discount if you're buying him from Forbidden Planet, assuming the £3.50 postage fee. It looks like they've only got magazine numbers going up to number 10 on pre-order at the moment though, so might want to look out for this one going live. In any case, on paper this one certainly looks like one of the best deals for the Tyranid players out there. Finally, we're back to the Space Marines for the Chaplain on bike. Another pretty cool miniature in my opinion, able to lead Outriders and make them a bit scarier both at shooting and in melee. Again, like the Parasite, I feel like you probably get him more for just a cool model to put on the table or look good. 10th edition just doesn't really seem to have been particularly kind to him at the moment. In general, Outriders tend to be a unit that you want to keep nice and cheap and use them for a sort of objective skirmishing and utility kind of role, given that they can't really be great damage dealers with their strength 4, AP 1 and damage 1 attacks. So most of the time it's just kind of throwing good points after bad to throw the Chaplain in there, even if the rules that he has are pretty good. To buy him direct from Games Workshop it's £34, so £29 from a discount retailer. And that means that in theory this one could be about the best savings out of any of them besides the Psychophage, I suppose. Compared with buying him from a discount retailer, it's around about 2/3 off at 66%. And it's still a pretty impressive 54% off if you wind up paying the postage fee through Forbidden Planet if you ordered it there. I guess it was always going to be the case that the ones that you don't get through the starter sets and things tend to look better here, but he certainly seems like one of the picks of the bunch for the Space Marines out there. Overall, for the run in the UK, I'd rate these magazines as perhaps the best ones to go for, presuming you're trying to pick up some individually as opposed to just subscribe to the whole thing, of course. For the first 6, it certainly feels like issue 1 and 2, and then the Barb Gaunts, and I'd say the Infernus Sergeant. Looks like he'll be an in-demand miniature, currently selling online for around £20 or so. Even if his practical gaming purposes aren't really that big, I guess maybe you could run him as a combi lieutenant or something. Otherwise, beyond that, the 3 that look really quite good are the Terminator Librarian and Paintbrush, and then the last 2 in the Parasite of Mortrex and the Chaplain on bike. Beyond that, I feel like the issues with the Terminators, Infernus Marines and Psychophage are all okay, but I wouldn't say that there's so much discount versus buying them elsewhere that they're all that much to seek out and write home about personally. I feel like after we leave the starter set contents behind, some of the later magazines will probably be a bit better in terms of providing cheap models on the tabletop. It looks like it's probably going to go into Eldari and Chaos Space Marines after that, and both of those do have some pretty cool stuff. Plenty of Wind Riders, Hellbrute and some Chaos Terminators and things. Again, it looks like some of the magazine issues should have some good deals. In any case, let me know what you make of the revealed magazine contents. Will you be attempting to get your hands on any of the individual issues here, and if so, which ones? I'll leave the links to the pre-order ones for number 6 and number 10 down in the video description from Forbidden Planet. Might be useful to some of you, and I'll certainly look forward to covering any other news that we get of the magazine collection in the future. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming. I do tend to post new ones just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description down below. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.